kinabukasan. Hawakan ng aking kamay, sabay abutin natin ang tagumpay. Patuloy lang tayo sa pagpapanday, tiwala sa Diyos ang sanda at gabay. Subukan nating isulong at ligawan ang magandang bukas. Ikaw at ako magkasama tayo sa lubungin ng kinabukasan. Tapang harapin ang buhay, akapin ang tagumpay. Tulungan ang kapwa at bigyang halaga, huwag hatakin ng pababa. Isipin huwag sana ang sarili lang, pakisama't bayanihan. Subukan nating isulong at ligawan ang magandang bukas. Ikaw at ako magkasama tayo sa lubungin ng kinabukasan. damdamin ipamalas aking galing. Yung tapang harapin ang buhay, yakapin ang tagumpay. Tulungan ang kapwa at bigyang halaga, huwag hatakin ng pababa. Isipin mo sana ang sarili lang, pakisama't bayanihan. Subukan nating isulong at ligawan ang magandang bukas. Ikaw at ako magkasama tayo, salubungin ang kinabukasan. Hawakan ng aking kamay, sabay abutin natin ang tagumpay. Patuloy lang tayo sa pagpapanday, tiwala sa Diyos ang sandat at gabay. Subukan nating isulong at ligawan ang magandang bukas. Ikaw at ako magkasama tayo, salubungin ang kinabukasan. Tapang harapin ang buhay, yakapin ang tagumpay. Tulungan ang kapwa at bigyang halaga, huwag hatakin ng pababa. Isipin sana ang sarili lang, pakisama bayanihan. Subukan nating isulong at ligawan ang magandang bukas. Ikaw at ako magkasama tayo, salubungin ang kinabukasan. Pag-ibig hawakan ng aking kamay, sabay abutin natin ang tagumpay. Patuloy lang tayo sa pagpapanday, tiwala sa Diyos ang sandat at gabay. Subukan nating isulong at ligawan ang magandang bukas. Ikaw at ako magkasama tayo sa lubungin ng kinabukasan. Sana ang sarili lang, pakisama't bayanihan. Subukan natin isulong at ligawan ang magandang bukas. Ikaw at ako magkasama tayo sa lubungin ng kinabukasan.
Reach Batangas. One hour south of metropolitan Manila, in the southern Tagalog region, is the breathtaking province of Batangas. Batangas is surrounded by the Verde Island Passage, the northern nexus of the Coral Triangle, and the world's center for coral and marine species diversity in the West Philippine Sea. It is blessed with a strategic location, friendly climate, deep water ports, long coastline, rich waters, abundant natural attractions, fertile land, and industrious people. The placid and grandiose Taal Lake and the mystical volcano island are among the province's great treasures. Taal Lake offers an exciting cruise adventure, passing through the Pacific River Bird Sanctuary, climbing the volcano island on horseback, to view the crater lake. Batangas is a natural playground. Take a boat ride through mangroves, view unique rock formations, and trek to mountains and waterfalls. Experience underwater escapades in Lobo, San Juan, Mabini, and Tingloy. Walk through heritage homes and 19th century churches in charming Taal, Balayan, Batangas City, Tanawan, and San Juan. A new pilgrim destination with a majestic view of the open sea, the Statue of Mary, Mother of all Asia in Monte Maria, Batangas City, is dedicated to unity and peace of all people around the world. A most popular site, Batangas is also the home of the National Shrine of Padre Pio in Santo Tomas. Further south is Lipas City, visited by pilgrims and most especially during Holy Week for Visita Iglesia, is now known as the Little Rome of the Philippines. Take an industry tour of Batangas and watch the sewing of Taal's delicate embroidery, unique craft of the Balisong, Ibaan's fine hobby, San Juan's pottery, and special lambanog. A culinary tour takes you to taste Lipa's strong kapeng barako, savor Mabini's tablia, Balayan's signature bagoong, Balete's pure honey, Santo Tomas bulalo, sweet panucha, and our special fish, tawilis and maliputo, fresh catch from towns around Taal Lake. The Batangas Bay Area, you can find industrial centers and power generation sites. Colleges and universities are located in the highly developed cities and first-class municipalities. The International Port of Batangas is the main gateway in the province from the sea and serves traveling passengers and cargo from southern Philippines. Great men, Mabini, Laurel, Recto, Jokno, Malvar, and Calao are all well known in our Philippine history as Batangueño statesmen and national heroes who fought for our country's freedom. All this makes Batangas a rich province, high-value agricultural crops, local industrial products, skilled workplace, historical towns, natural wonders, delicious heritage cuisine, and your ultimate adventure. What are you waiting for? Come visit Reach Batangas.
morning, Philippines. Good afternoon and good evening, Canada and the United States. And to our kababayans and colleague, magandang araw po. Welcome to Conversations on Filipino Cuisine and the Province of Batangas. This is Centro Rizal Toronto's Common Cultural Project with the Philippine Embassy in Ottawa and the Philippine Consulates General in Vancouver and Calgary. Tonight's presentation is also in commemoration of the quincentennial in the Philippines and the National Heritage Month. Please allow me to recognize the presence of the following distinguished guests. The wife of the Honorable Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Madam Maria Lourdes Louis Barcelon Locsin. Welcome, ma'am. Wife of Philippine Ambassador to Canada, Madam Nora San Benaventura Robles. Welcome also, ma'am. Their Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps and honorable members of the Consular Corps of the Philippines and the City of Toronto. His Excellency, Philippine Permanent Representative to the ASEAN, honorable members of the Legislative Assembly of the Province of Manitoba, officials of the City of Toronto, City of Brampton, and the Town of Ajax, trustees of the Catholic District School Boards of Toronto and the Dufferin Peel region, officials from the Philippine National Commission for Culture and the Arts, distinguished members of the academic, religious, and culinary communities, and members of the media. Members and supporters of the ASEAN Ladies Association of the Philippines, DFA Ladies Foundation, and other foundations being supported and headed by Madam Locsin. Representatives of tourism and travel agencies, members and leaders of the Filipino community, other distinguished guests. I am pleased to inform that we are also being followed live in real time by students and parents from the two largest Catholic district school boards in Toronto and the Dufferin Peel region. Greetings also to viewers from the province of Batangas and other parts of the Philippines, the United States, Canada, and Indonesia. I am Orontes Castro from the Philippine Consulate General in Toronto and the moderator of tonight's webinar. We wish to remind everyone that you can submit your questions to the resource speakers during the webinar through the Q&A chat box of your device and will be replied during the Q&A portion. The unanswered questions will be sent to the speakers and they will be requested to reply to you. Esteemed guest, colleague, and mga kababayan, it gives me great honor to introduce to you a man of excellent academic and professional achievements. First place in the 1967 Philippine Bar Examinations with Master of Laws from the Harvard University. Youngest Law Dean of the biggest law school in the Philippines. Elected as delegate to Philippine 1971 Constitutional Convention, where he authored the Ombudsman and Miranda Doctrine provisions in the 1972 Philippine Constitution. Because of excellent achievements in the field of law, he was an awardee of the prestigious 10 Outstanding Young Men of the Philippine JCs. Our speaker also has a successful career in the private sector. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming His Excellency Ambassador Rodolfo de Robles for his welcome remarks.
Thank you very much, Ron, for your kind introduction. Mga kababayan, good morning, good evening po sa inyong lahat. Welcome to Conversations on Filipino Cuisine with Chef Mirna Sigismundo and the province of Batangas. Before we formally open this program, I wish to convey our sincere thanks and our warm welcome to Governor Hermilando I. Mandanas, Attorney Sylvia M. Marasigan, and Chef Mirna Sigismundo for sharing their time and expertise with us this evening. Allow me also to recognize the presence of the wife of the Honorable Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of the Philippines, Madam Maria Lourdes Louis B. Locsin. Distinguished Filipino-Canadian members of provincial and municipal legislatures, distinguished officials from the City of Toronto, led by Dr. Aileen De Villa, Medical Officer of Health. I wish to note that the late father of Dr. De Villa came from the province of Batangas. Colleagues from the Consular Corps in Toronto and their spouses, members and supporters of the ASEAN Ladies Association of the Philippines and the DFA Ladies Foundation, distinguished Filipino-Canadian trustees of district school boards, and viewers of this webinar from the province of Batangas and other parts of the Philippines, the United States, and Canada. We are also joined by Consul General Maria Angelita Austria of Vancouver, Consul General Zaldi Patron from Calgary, and our host, Consul General Orontes Castro in Toronto. I note that this activity is the opening event of the Common Cultural Calendar of the Philippine Foreign Service Posts in Canada. This event is, therefore, an auspicious start as we embark on building a bond among the members of the Filipino diaspora across Canada through shared cultural events, conceptualized, organized, and simultaneously delivered by the Philippine Embassy in Ottawa and the Philippine Consulates General in Vancouver, Calgary, and Toronto. Ladies and gentlemen, as Filipinos, our cultural heritage is not only a source of great national pride, but also of comfort and belonging. This is highlighted by our strong attachment to our motherland, our home provinces, and our food. Despite our physical distance from the Philippines, we still fondly recall our home country and savor moments that allow us to reconnect with our roots. This evening's event is a rare gathering of distinguished guests and experts who will be discussing a topic that is close to everyone's heart. Food naturally brings people together. As Canada's Filipino diaspora has grown to almost 1 million, so too have the many Filipino restaurants, chefs, caterers, and other culinary providers grown throughout the country to share unique Filipino flavors and textures with Canada. I am indeed delighted to have this opportunity to share our rich cultural heritage with our Filipino, ASEAN, and Canadian friends alike. Batangas, one of the Philippines' historic provinces, and the heartland of the Tagalog language, is a vibrant cultural center and an important economic hub. Over the years, the province has become a prime investment location with its emerging industrial zones. It is known as one of the Philippines' most popular tourist destinations, with its heritage towns and pilgrimage sites, beaches and parks, and the striking views from the Taal Lake and volcano. I am happy to inform you that the province of Batangas is also a close neighbor of my home province, Quezon Province. In 2019, the province of Batangas opened its doors to the 6th edition of Winter Escapade. It's More Fun in the Philippines, an annual tour that brings Filipinos and Canadians to premier destinations in the Philippines. Some of the members of the audience who were able to join this tour would remember that Governor Mandanas personally welcomed the participants during their visit, together with Attorney Marasigan and other Batangas officials. Thank you for your hospitality. I have heard that Chef Mirna Sigismundo is very excited to teach us how to cook adobo and beef caldereta the Batangueño way. And it will indeed be a treat to see such a renowned chef in her element and watch all of us pick up some cooking skills. The recipes to these two popular Filipino dishes were distributed to you in advance, should you wish to follow along while Chef Mirna is demonstrating how best to prepare these dishes. The Philippines is a country with more than 7,000 islands. What you may not know is that there are more than 7,000 opinions on how to cook the best adobo. Hopefully, Chef Mirna can help us shed light on this debate. There is, of course, an ongoing debate whether adobo should be considered as the Philippine national dish. I look forward to an engaging and delicious discussion tonight, and maybe partake virtually in the fantastic dishes Chef Mirna will be preparing for us tonight. Ala, ay tapos na baga po ako magsalita. Maraming salamat na po lamang.
Thank you so much for the inspiring remarks, Mr. Ambassador, sir. Maraming salamat po. It's really very enjoyable to hear you, sir. Central Rizal Toronto is pleased to present our next speaker. He will introduce the historic province of Batangas. He was the governor of the province from 1995 to 2004 and was elected again in 2016 to lead the province. Our distinguished speaker served also as the representative of the 2nd District of Batangas. A multi-awarded government officials, he received a Doctor of Humanities from the Batangas State University. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to introduce the Honorable Governor Ermilando Dodo Mandanas.
Welcome to the province of Batangas. On behalf of the provincial government of Batangas, as governor, this is to cordially invite you to learn more about the most powerful province On behalf of the provincial government of Batangas, as governor, this is to cordially invite you to learn more about the most powerful province in the Philippines, the traditional Pearl of the Orient. We are celebrating this year in the Philippines our 50th year quincentennial anniversary of the evangelization and socio-economic globalization of our country. It has been 500 years since the most powerful country then, Spain, brought their religion, traditions, culture, and development to the Far East. Now, Batangas continues to welcome and unite ourselves with the rest of the world, accept the new realities, adopt and rise above in our everyday life and in our social and economic activities. Batangas is the right place to live, work, and play, not only in the Philippines, but also to enter Asia. Batangas has been blessed with natural and human resources that enable us not only to overcome disasters and calamities like the COVID-19 pandemic, but also to continue our advances in improving the lives of our people and contribute to the global recovery and growth. In addition to our native language, our people can speak English, little Spanish, not French, but we share basically the same religion with relatively high level of education, naturally hospitable, cordial, and sympathetic. And our workers can be easily trained and naturally willing to work, as you have observed with the Filipinos in your community. Batangas is the most important ingredients for growth and development. In addition to our people, we have the best harbor, power supply, infrastructure, water, schools, hospitals, pool of skilled labor, tourist attractions, peace and order, basic industries, logistics centers, communications, and others. Batangas hosts electric power plants currently operating 5,375 megawatts and another 1,500 megawatts being planned. Just for comparison, the entire Metro Manila consumes 4,900 megawatts, less than 5,000. 100% of the natural gas from the Philippine Sea is piped and utilized in Batangas to fuel 3,200 megawatts, while 2,500 megawatts use geothermal steam and use coal, and the rest coal and diesel, and even solar panels. Under construction are 2 liquefied natural gas gasification plants that can fuel power plants to generate up to 2,500 megawatts. That is why Batangas is truly the most powerful province in the Philippines. Batangas is also the de facto energy center because in addition to the power plants, 65% of the entire transportation fuel of the Philippines pass through Batangas. Gasoline, diesel, aviation gas, kerosene, bunker fuel, and others. There is already an approved project with environmental clearance certificate for the LNG pipeline network for the use of liquefied natural gas for transportation, industrial processing, domestic power needs for houses, commercial markets, roads, parks, and other infra projects. The only operating petrochemical complex in the Philippines, complete with a naphtha cracker plant to supply the polypropylene and polyethylene pallets production for the plastic industry, is in Batangas City. The gateway of the Philippine National Nautical Highway is in the Batangas International Port, servicing now 3 times more passengers than Port of Manila. Expansion of the Batangas International Port is ongoing and is planned to relieve the ports in Manila not only of the commercial congestion but the notorious traffic congestion in Metro Manila. Batangas has also been declared by the Department of Agriculture as the agri-industrial gateway, the start of the agribusiness corridor for the food supply chain of half of the Philippines. The food terminal with adjoining food port is now under construction. There will be cold storages, grains handling facilities, food and related product processing, wholesale food markets, logistics support, and others. And due to its strategic location and availability of health facilities, universities, colleges, technical training schools, and well-organized basic education, developed roads, communication, and other basic infrastructure. Peace and order. The province of Batangas now hosts several economic processing zones, employing more than 200,000 workers in different business sectors: electronics, garments, electrical components, agro-industrial products processing, logistics, steel production, metal fabrication, construction materials manufacturing, business process outsourcing, and others. In communication, until a few years ago, 100% of the global submarine cables connecting the Philippines to the world land in Nasugbu, Batangas. Fortunately for the country, the telcos have installed landing stations in other provinces, and Batangas now hosts only 70% of the gateways. Deployment of fiber optics and construction of telco towers are underway. Even the towers used for electric power transmission from the generating plants, which we have the most in the Philippines, are capable of carrying fiber optics for communication. Tourism is a major sector in Batangas. Batangas is second only to Cebu in the number of visitors. Our attractions include Verde Island Pasig, the center of the marine biodiversity of the entire world, as declared by the United Nations, Conservation International, WWF, and others. Our fabled Taal volcano landscape, our long coastlines with fabulous coral gardens, and cathedral-like underwater seascapes, basilicas, and shrines for the religious, verdant hills and mountains for the hikers and climbers, centuries-old houses dotting our historical towns and cities, and of course, the local food recipes served with the traditional, amiable, hospitable, charming, and jovial hosts, and many more. Still, the Provincial Development Plan of Batangas is reviving the Philippine National Railroad 50-kilometer railroad track connecting the Batangas International Port to the ongoing South Luzon line from Manila to Bicol. Likewise, the province is studying the feasibility of having our own airport. We completed the study of converting an existing military base into a dual-use airport, military and commercial, similar to the Manila and Cebu airports. We accept in Batangas that the COVID-19 pandemic not only as a calamity, but also a wake-up call, and even an opportunity to unite, to consolidate, to level up the pace of the new realities. And so, when you think of the right place for you across the Pacific, please think of the Philippines. Think of the province of Batangas. Think of the right place. Welcome to Batangas, and mabuhay tayong lahat. May God bless us all.
Thank you so much for the very informative remarks, Governor Mandanas. Our next speaker is an equally accomplished public official in the Philippines. She is the daughter of a distinguished former cabinet member, a former colleague in the Philippine Foreign Service, who served as consul at the Philippine Consulate General here in Toronto. Like the Philippine ambassador, she is a distinguished member of the Philippine Bar and presently serves as the tourism officer of the province of Batangas. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Rizal is pleased to present attorney and my dear friend, Sylvia Marasigan.
Good morning and good evening, everyone. I would like to greet His Excellency Ambassador Robles, all the viewers from our Philippine Foreign Service post in Canada and the US, Madame Louie Luxin, wife of our Philippine Secretary of Foreign Affairs, officials of the Canadian government, ASEAN Diplomatic and Consular Corps, mga kababayan, mga Batanggenyo sa North America, mabuhay po kayo, mabuhay ang Batangas. Let me take you on a short virtual trip to our province. What comes to your mind when you hear the word Taal? Most would see a big crater in a volcano, but did you know that aside from Taal volcano located in Batangas, there is also a Taal heritage town? Taal volcano is a small active volcano surrounded by a beautiful lake and 11 lakeshore towns, while Taal Heritage Town is a historical town by the lake which dates back to the early 16th century. These two sites alone offers various adventure activities for all ages and memorable cultural immersion that can easily elevate your travel experience. Batangas tourism catchphrase is Rich Batangas, it's all here, so near. So where is Batangas? We are 1.5 hours drive by car from the Ninoy Aquino International Airport passing through the Apolinario Mabini Tollway, also known as Star Toll. Every exit along the tollway leads you to towns which offers a range of exciting, fun, food, and faith tourism attractions. Batangas can be accessed by land and by ferry. Coming in from the south, Visayas or nearby Mindoro, you'll arrive at the Batangas International Port in Batangas City, where daily arrivals here are about 7 million. This busy port overlooking the West Philippine Sea, our Monte Maria Pilgrimage Center on a plateau, the Verde Island Passage, the Marine Biodiversity Center of the world. Upon arrival at the port, you can take a short ride to the nearby Grand Bus Terminal, which can take you to 30 municipalities and 4 cities. Batangas City is the largest in the province and where most industries are located. Power companies are lined up by the coast. Santo Tomas is the home of the Technoparks and the famous original bulalo or beef stew. Tanangon City, our scenic lakeside city, boasts of beautiful homes by the hillside with a big open market of fresh produce that caters to Metro Manila and the north. And of course, Lipa City, in the heart of the province, our modern city with quality medical centers, malls, and nightlife. Allow me to highlight one island municipality in the province called Tingloy. It is a short 20 minutes boat ride from Mabini town, famous for diving, along with another famous one, Anilao. So what exactly can you do in Batangas and how long can you stay? Depending on your plans, you can work, visit, play, and maybe even retire and live by the seafront. For visitors, a typical trip can start with a 6 o'clock a.m. departure from central Manila, and you can be enjoying a Batangas attraction by 7:30 in the morning. Your options include, number one, we have the Bayside towns. At the west end, 15 towns for sun and beach activities. From Tagaytay, you can visit Nasugbu, Balayan, Calatagan, Matabungkay, Batangas City, and further on the east are Lubo and San Juan for swimming, diving, snorkeling, island hopping, floating cottages, and others. Lakeside towns. These are the central part around the Taal Lake for a scenic ride through the circumferential road. You can do water sports, boating, and mountain climbing. The must-try is the Willis, small sardinella, fried crispy, and similar to the herring fish from Holland. But the Willis comes from our freshwater lake. Meet the locals, watch them cook native food, learn and buy their crafts for souvenirs. The inlands. These are our 8 towns with animal farms, lush gardens, organic farms, open as learning sites, farm experience, and overnight camping, and even glamping. These farms are for outdoor experience, secluded, small groups, tutorials on planting herbs, and enjoying healthy food. How about those who want to immerse in local culture? There are 5 cultural products, among the many others that we have, that I recommend that you must taste, buy, and see. Let's start with Barako coffee, the full aroma and strong coffee, much so like an espresso taken by the locals, black or with brown sugar, and sometimes poured over the rice to soften it and put flavor. It comes from Liberica beans and grown in the cool farms in Lipa City and Mataas na Kahoy. Is recorded in books of the Spaniards during their occupation in the 1600s brought in the coffee beans for plantation in all villages, and Lipa rose to fame as a world producer for 6 months when a disease affected coffee production worldwide. That is why many families were able to send their children to Spain to be educated. Number two, tablea, chocolate balls from cacao trees found in most farms in Batangas. It takes different shapes, thick disc, flat, and even square. But what is done with it? Guests are offered hot and thick tablea mixed with water, milk, and sugar using a wooden beater or batidor and offered as a welcome drink, snack, and paired with suman or rice cake. Yummy, right? And a common morning porridge called champurrado is also made with tablea. Number three are hobby weavers in Ibaan, a town in the eastern part near Lipa City. Traditional loom weaving is being done by the Sunrise Weavers, a group of women who continue to make fabrics, which started with cotton mosquito nets, blankets, and pillowcases. Now they sell fabrics, shawls, and customize for personal orders. The local government, training from the national government, and support from private groups from Batangas business groups are making them known locally. And hopefully with your help, the top I'm wearing now during this presentation is by SM Sunrise Weaving Association. Number four, Taal Borda or hand embroidery. Our beautiful national costumes, Barong Tagalog and Barot Saya, have long been embroidered in little shops by the public market in Taal Heritage Town. You can distinguish it by the intricate and detailed big floral designs which attract so much attention when used during formal occasions here and abroad. Today you can buy embroidered shawls, embroidered light coats, or casual wear with embroideries and even accents on bags. I remember the winter escapade from Canada to Taal a few years back, and the sellers staged stalls in front of the basilica for all tourists that can happen in your next visit too. Subli dance. Every May, during the Feast of the Holy Cross, a worship dance is performed originally in Alitagtag and Buwan, even before Spanish colonization. Men and women dance by pairs and starts with chants or prayers, followed by drum beatings, men jumping holding castanets, and women do graceful gestures in movements with bowing and removing their hats. Subli is now celebrated as a Sublian festival in 5 towns in honor of the Holy Cross, for good harvest, and a calm Taal volcano. Subli originated from Batangas, and we aim to have it nominated as a UNESCO World Heritage status. We are sharing these cultural products to allow the traditional makers to continue their crafts for the next generations. We recognize their value and uniqueness, and we prioritize local communities' sustainable livelihood. We are proud of our history of more than 400 years as a province and its roots. We hope that you will share them too to international communities. But what about amenities and services? Not only will you be connected with nature, faith, cuisine, and excitement, Batangas is also internet connected. We are Wi-Fi ready, banks are available, and ATM machines in all towns and accommodation are all on digital mode for online reservations. Tourists and balikbayans can choose from more than 1,000 places for overnight stay, from 4-star to 3-star hotels to Airbnbs, beach resorts, and lakeside inns. You can opt for simple homestay offerings too. With the current health pandemic, we are still in community quarantine with limitations on leisure for travelers. But soon, we're all set for visitors, both local and foreign tourists, for day trips, for weekends, and even long-term stay. Batangas takes safety to heart, so we encourage all guests to visit establishments either accredited by the Department of Tourism and those registered with the Provincial Tourism Office, all for your safety and secure health protocols. Tourism is important to Batangas for its mutual benefits, to bring livelihood to our locals, to share our history and culture to the rest of the world. This is why we are focused on ecotourism, being green and sustainably caring for the environment. Batangas is rich in natural resources. We are proud of the Alae hardworking people. We are a cradle of heroes, fertile lands, rich underwater treasures and lush forests, mountains and farms. Two calamities, natural and health, have hit us really hard and they are still unrested, the Al volcano. But the pandemic is giving us time to bounce back, prepare, allowing the sites to be preserved, cleaned, and saved under the new normal environment of tourism. There are five traits of Batangueños: beauty, intelligence, hardworking, brave, with integrity, and deeply religious. It is called Diwang Batangueño, and it's the moving force to bring out the best in Batangas. We are optimistic for the future of tourism, so come and enjoy rich Batangas. We welcome you here in our province. For any queries, please download our app of Rich Batangas in the Apple Store or Google Play. Visit our website and Facebook pages and contact details on the screen. Mabuhay po kayong lahat at maraming salamat.
Thank you so much, Attorney Sylvia Marasigan. I'm happy to inform that Attorney Marasigan agreed to share her PowerPoint presentation tonight. And the Philippine Consulate will email to all who registered tonight. At this moment, we would like to call on the Tourism Director Attaché of Philippine Department of Tourism to introduce our next speaker for his testimonial on the province of Batangas. May we call on Mr. Francisco Berdisaban.
Okay. Thank you very much, Conjen Castro. The Department of Tourism expresses its gratitude to the Philippine Consulate General in Toronto for conceiving this event and allowing DOT to be a part of it. Gastronomy tourism has been, for the last 6 to 8 years, one of the most important segments of tourism development. There is an increasing trend of tourists traveling to one destination specifically motivated by food. Somewhere around the world, there is always someone scrolling on their iPhone, laptop, or computer on the lookout for the next place they could visit that has the best food they can try, or perhaps a food festival, a farmer's market, or culinary tour. Ours is a country brimming with heirloom recipes, food-centric festivals and culture, and olden cooking practices. The DOT believes so much in the potential of Filipino food that culinary tourism has now become a key tourism product in the National Tourism Development Plan. In developing and promoting culinary tourism, it is important to develop an authentic and credible storyline about the destination's gastronomy to make sure that the focus is on local gastronomy, since local gastronomy has a cultural heritage. Nowadays, luxury travel is not just about expensive and affluent facilities. Luxury travel is now more about authentic experiences. Hence, we can say, local gastronomy is part and parcel of luxury travel. We are also grateful for social media and online presentations like this in helping promote and expound on the Philippines' local gastronomy and storyline, even in the midst of the current pandemic. And we're also thankful that this online event highlights my favorite destination as a child, and together with many Manileños like me, continues to be among our favored short distance road trip destinations. Among foreign travelers, we in the DOT have been promoting Batangas for sightseeing, spa and wellness, nature, culture, agritourism, food, beaches, and diving. And to provide credible storylines, I have requested a very good friend of DOT from the USA to share his experiences living and working in the Philippines. Mike is an underwater photographer residing in Anilao, Batangas, and photo pro at Crystal Blue Resort. Originally from Southern California, he has an insatiable love for finding unique marine life and telling their story through photos and videos. Mike is a widely published, award-winning photographer, writer, and international public speaker with work appearing monthly in various publications, aquariums, and museums. He hosts photo clinics, workshops, and seminars at Crystal Blue Resort, concentrating on the different aspects of underwater photography and the natural history of Southeast Asia and the Indo-Pacific. Mike is also a global ambassador for CNC underwater imaging, Kraken Sports, and Retra UWT, and works with various companies to bring quality products to the market. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure and honor to present to you our friend, Mr. Mike Bartik.
Hi, I'm Mike Bartik. While we're celebrating the wonderful foods of Batangas, I'd like to also speak to everybody about the world-class diving that is also in Batangas, in a special area called Anilao. Anilao truly has world-class diving, and we're going to go over some of those key features in my short presentation. One thing that I love about the Batangas area is not only the colorful people and the colorful community, but that it welcomes foreign visitors from all over the world every year. Let's dive in and find out why Anilao is so very special and discover your wow in Anilao. The Philippines is located in the Coral Triangle, which supports more than 500 coral species. Anilao is recognized as having some of the highest biomass within the Coral Triangle due to its proximity to deep water and the Verde Island Pass. Now, if you look at the tiles down below, it'll give you a good idea of the Coral Triangle area. So that's roughly delineated on the left side. But if you follow that closer red line, you will see that the Coral Triangle actually narrows. And on the right, you will see the tile that denotes the Verde Island Pass. Now, the Verde Island Pass has been designated as having some of the highest biomass on the planet by many different scientists, and they have really done a lot of research. In fact, every year they do research from the California Academy of Sciences, amongst other institutions that are continually finding new animal life, which is what brought me to Anilao in the first place. So in total, in the Coral Triangle, some of the stats are there. 76% of the world's coral species exist in the Coral Triangle alone. And if you notice, the Great Barrier Reef is not included in that. 7% of the world's fish population, more than 6,000 species of fish, 6 marine turtle species, and all in an area that is only 1.6% of the global total mass of the oceans of the world. So if you think about that, it's not a very big area, but it sure packs a lot of punch. Mabini is quite striking. And when you talk about beautiful fish life and thriving reefs, Mabini and Anilao really has it all. Now, you hear me saying the word Mabini. Mabini town is really the first place that you enter into. The whole entire area is called Anilao, the Anilao Peninsula. This is one of our dive sites called Sombrero, and typically very crystal clear, blue, clean water, and just full of marine life. The corner, again, the colors are so vibrant, multiple different corals. Now, you remember that original slide when we talked about all the different coral species. And when you look at the reef like this, you will see how many different corals are actually competing for a little bit of real estate on those reefs. Stunning. Arthur's Rock. Now, MPA is a marine protected area. Anilao has several of these marine protected areas that they've set up, and they've been in place for multiple years. Now, giving the fish and other invertebrate species the opportunity to thrive and live in these areas that are not fished, allow these places to populate and to overflow, and also support the fishing community as well as the diving community. Twin Rocks, beautiful corals, beautiful fish, schooling jacks, just really thriving, very colorful and vibrant. I would have to say that the reefs are probably the best kept secret of Anilao. Turtles, almost every dive you'll see turtles. Most people associate Anilao with the marine invertebrate life, or the macro critters, as we like to call them. And photographers from all over the world come to Anilao to look and find and discover their own subjects. So subjects like this one, which is actually an invertebrate nudibranch, it looks like a ball of twine, very, very hard to find. So in this area, a lot of guides who live and have grown up in the area dive, and they assist visitors in finding these subjects. So without a local guide, it's very difficult to see or find these subjects. So we always encourage people to get a guide when they come, and they're almost like park rangers. So the guides are not only in charge of taking care of the reefs when they're doing the dives, but finding the subjects for the guests. Wow, Anilao. This is a soft coral nudibranch. It's actually laying eggs. You can see the little light blue egg patch, the egg ring on the bottom, and the nudibranch on the top. So this is actually a snail that over millions of years has evolved to lose their shell. And it's safe to call them a marine slug. That's basically what they are. You can see the gills in the back. And down front, they have those little rhinophores. That's how they smell and essentially see in the water. In addition to the beautiful assortment of nudibranchs that we also have critters, the real critters. So these ones are really sought after. This is a rhinopeus. We call this the king of macro because they are so beautiful. They come in a whole variety of different colors, and even though they're quite gaudy in their appearance, it allows them to blend in to the substrate, believe it or not, and blend in, and they're a lion weight predator. So what they do is they conserve their energy and wait for another fish to come by and then strike with very fast and deadly force. Hairy frogfish, one of my all-time favorite subjects. It looks like a ball of hair, thus the name. So these guys hunt by using that little lure in the front. It comes down, they shake it around, it attracts a fish, and then they use the same method as the rhinopeus, which is called a gape strike, and they will attack their fish, consume their prey. And these guys have a very voracious appetite. Beautiful subjects, really disguised in the sand. Pink-eyed gobies, very beautiful. Jawfish with eggs. You can see those eggs in there. And even the fish and animal life in the Philippines has a nice sense of community. One thing that has developed in the late 2017, 2018 time is blackwater diving. And prior to this, there was only one place in the world that was really doing blackwater, which was in Hawaii, actually, Kona, Hawaii, because of their close proximity to deep water. Well, we started to do blackwater diving just to explore the waters, and lo and behold, we found a whole new world of animal life, and another reason for foreigners to come and enjoy the beautiful animal life of Anilao, Philippines. Incredible life, incredible marine biodiversity, paper nautilus. Blackwater diving, you can see subjects like this larval oarfish, which can get up to 30 feet as an adult, otherwise known as an earthquake fish. Here it's just in a small stage. The ribbon fish mimics jellyfish. And the blanket octopus, one of the most regal and beautiful subjects that I've ever encountered in my entire dive career. But the true magic of Anilao really is in the community and the people that live there. I've lived in Anilao for approximately 13 years. I lived in Southern California prior to that, and I just couldn't imagine myself living anywhere else now. I've really come to love the community. The community has adopted me, and it's just a beautiful place for myself to live. And I highly encourage people to come visit the Batangas region, experience some of the foods, experience the people, and most importantly, come out to Anilao and experience some of the diving and find your wow in Anilao. Thank you.
That was a very interesting presentation. Thank you so much, Mr. Bartik and Mr. Larvisabal. We have now come to the main event of our webinar tonight. In fact, I'm happy to announce that many are ready to cook along with our main presenter tonight. One of our honorable members of the Legislative Assembly of the province of Manitoba, the Honorable Malaya Marcelino, in fact, is very ready. I could see her in the screen, ready to follow and cook along with our distinguished and very respectable chef. We are pleased to introduce to you a distinguished Filipina chef who has an outstanding career and who served in various hotels in the Philippines and overseas. A noted author of Philippine culinary books and a sought-after resource speaker on culinary. She presently works out in a private kitchen studio called New Manila, where she does consultancy and recipe development. A partner of the Philippine Department of Foreign Affairs on culinary diplomacy, she brought and continues to bring the Philippine culinary in the consciousness of overseas Filipinos and their host countries. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Chef Mirna Seismundo. Chef, I think you're still muted. Chef Mirna, I think you're muted.
Hello? Can you hear me
We
now?
can hear you now, Chef. We're very excited.
Okay, can you also see me?
Very well, Chef. We could see many utensils around you and ingredients.
Yes. Okay, how do I greet you now? Magandang umaga ho sa inyong lahat. Mga nasa Canada po, nasa Maynila, nasa Amerika, nasa iba't ibang probinsya po dito sa Pilipinas. Pag binati po namin kayo sa Batangas, ay ano ga ho ang aming sinasabi? Ano ga, alae, kamusta ga ho kayong lahat? Kayo baga ay handa ng magluto ng ating adobo at kaldereta dahil mahaba ho ang oras natin o rather kung dalawang dish ho ang lulutuin natin, napakahirap pong gawin. So I will try and contain the procedure and the cooking and discuss as much as I can within 30 or 40 minutes. If you will bear with me, we can try and cover as much ground in cooking two popular dishes in Batangas, which is adobo and caldereta. Now, alam nyo po, unang-una ho pala binabati ko po yung mga distinguished guests natin, mga kaibigan po, mga kamag-anak, kasi ninervyos po ako, baka walang manood, tinawag ko lahat ng kamag-anak ko para manood sa akin ngayon. I've been invited all over to do lectures and demos, and I've always felt very comfortable doing that, except now, because I have to talk to my own kababayans At baka ho ako mapagalitan at sabihin nila, eh bakit mali ang iyong mga recipe? Eh para ko ho sabihin sa inyo, ang adobo at kaldereta ay umikot na ho sa buong Pilipinas. Kaya kung mayroon po tayong mahigit na 7,000 islands and over 120 million people, I can imagine that there are many versions of the caldereta and the adobo as there are many people and islands in the Philippines. But nonetheless, I will zero in on what I grew up with eating in Batangas. Two dishes that are very close to my family, which is adobo and caldereta. You may have your own recipes and versions and variations to the recipes and the cooking techniques, but suffice it to say that I will talk about the very basics of a caldereta and an adobo. So ang gagawin ko po ngayon, as I go along with the preparation, doon na lang po ako magpapasok sa inyo ng mga tips, trivia, stories, probably some humor, just so I can keep you awake. And if some of you are going to be following as we cook from your own homes, winawarningan lang ho namin kayo, baka ho tayo makalimot sa mga niluluto natin and you may just, meet some accidents along the way. So warning lang po that you pay attention to your cooking as much as you pay attention to our instructions here. So, all right, let's get started. I'm going to start simmering the adobo while we do the caldereta. I've marinated the pork and chicken about an hour ago with the basic ingredients for an adobo, which is vinegar, garlic, chicken, and pork. And in this case, nagdagdag lang po ako ng konting toyo para hindi ho masyadong maputla yung ating adobo. So that's been marinating for a while. We had some peppercorns and some garlics thrown in. I don't use bay leaf for the simple reason that my mother never liked bay leaf. But bay leaf is a very common ingredient that you add to the adobo. But since we're talking about the food that I grew up with, there is no bay leaf in this particular recipe for the adobo. So anyway, I'll get this started, then we'll move on to making the caldereta. Okay, so let's start now. Okay, since this has been marinating for over an hour now, you can imagine all the flavors that are going to start melding into the soy sauce, the vinegar, the garlic, peppercorns, the pork, and the chicken. The trick here is to add enough water to cover, just to cover your meat. Okay? And we leave that here for now to cook while we work on our caldereta. Okay? Caldereta. What dish is caldereta all about? It's a very popular dish in Batangas. I would like to lay claim to it, the adobo and the caldereta. But then again, I might start a war. So suffice it to say na lang na yung caldereta po kinalakihan ko sa Batangas, or rather the caldereta I grew up with, is exactly how it's done here from my mother's own recipes. All right? So let's start with heating up our pan. No. All right. Gonna put some oil to saute what they call the Blessed Trinity, or in other languages, in Spanish and Italian, they call it the sofrito. And what is this Blessed Trinity? It's garlic, onions, and tomatoes, which we are going to saute together with all the other ingredients to make the caldereta. By the way, before we do all this, before we do all this sauteing, I want you to know that my procedure for caldereta requires that the beef be pre-boiled ahead of time to cut on the cooking time. Now, for purposes of commercial applications, especially, this is very practical, because then again, if you were to stew, the traditional method of stewing requires that you cook down the meat until it's tender in liquid, okay? But then again, that's going to take a little bit more time. Now they're saying, but that's going to lose all the flavors because all the flavors come from the long boiling and stewing of the meat. But in this case here, what's happening is when you boil down the beef in the water, and if you wanted to add some aromatics to that, that's really up to you. All the flavors are retained in that liquid, which we will throw back into the pot. So I think I've pretty much heated up the pan. So we have some garlic. And if you're following the recipes, the quantities are indicated there anyway. So this technique is called sweating. It's also called sweating because ang init-init to dito. It's so hot here in Manila that not only the ingredients are sweating, to caramelize the sugars, I'm starting to sweat too. So we Filipinos like to brown our garlic, which gives it a smoky and toasted taste, which is something that the Europeans don't really like. But then again, we're not Europeans, so we like the smoky taste to our garlic. And so we're browning that a little bit here. We'll add the onions. If you wanted to use the red onions, you can do that too. And this process is called caramelizing, where the natural sugars of the onions and the garlic come out. And that's why sometimes you notice there's a sweetish taste to the onions. That's called caramelization, the natural sugars that are extracted from your vegetables. Okay. You add your tomatoes. And this process is very common. It's like a beginning process for most dishes that are done here in the Philippines. It's also called guisado in Spanish, nagigisa, meaning sauteing. I'm going to lower the heat because then it's a little too strong. You don't want okay. We just want for the tomatoes to start getting a little mushy. And I wish you could smell what we're doing here right now, because then it's very fragrant. Okay, I think this is the beef I was talking about that we pre-boiled earlier, and it's really pork tender. So we're going to saute that here now. And notice that we actually shortened the cooking period. Because instead of stewing for endless hours, like 2 hours at some point when your beef is not too tender, this is a surefire procedure that you will get a very tender result when you pre-boil your beef. What cuts of beef can you use? The lesser cuts, the ones with the litid, with the sinews, chuck, top round, brisket, you can use for the caldereta. You don't want to use meats like tenderloin or ribeye. You don't want to waste that because those meats are meant for quick cooking, searing, grilling, frying. But in this case here, the lesser cuts of meat are meant to be cooked longer. And in this case here, the caldereta is going to simmer with more beautiful ingredients that will come along the way. So what's next here? Did I put everything else? Sorry. This could have come before the beef, but because I've been talking too much, I forgot to add it in. But nonetheless, it will start to blend in. That's chorizo de Bilbao, which is very popular here in the Philippines, especially during festive seasons. And I have news for you. There's no such thing as the chorizo de Bilbao. It's really just something that was coined here in the Philippines as referring to a Spanish sausage that they probably thought somebody from Bilbao came and bought the sausage with them in the process. You know, caldereta is a dish that can be very regular for Sunday dinners or daily meals for the family, but it can also be a very festive dish that you can upgrade the ingredients to become a holiday fiesta dish. So in this case here, you know, I had some ham bones that I found, you know, last Christmas, which I kept in the freezer, and that will add even more flavor to your caldereta. Okay, so we've got that broth, the resulting broth from pre-boiling the beef. We're going to throw that back in because all the flavors of the beef are in that broth. Now, some culinary schools or some chefs watching right now might say, "She's doing it wrong. You know, this is not what they taught us in culinary school." But hey, I've got news for you. Wrong or right, the recipe works. And it's very easy. And believe me, for non-chefs or budding cooks or hobbyists, this procedure is almost foolproof. So when you try to dissect the procedure, your beef is tender, your broth has flavor, your ingredients that you threw in, the sofrito, imagine all the caramelization of these ingredients. And then you've got the chorizo, that nice spicy paprika flavor. And then you've got the ham bones, ham that is very familiar, the smoky taste that we are all familiar with, especially during Christmas. This caldereta is definitely going to be a very special dish after we add all the other ingredients later on. So, okay. I don't need to stew this down for hours. That's been done much earlier, okay? So we'll let this simmer a little bit, then we'll add the tomato sauce, okay? In the meantime, we're cooking our adobo here. Let's see how it's going. Okay, it's starting to simmer, and we'll get to that later on. Now, what stories can I tell you about the caldereta? The caldereta in Batangas really started out with goat as the main ingredient in preparing the caldereta. It is often a dish that is served during fiestas, weddings in the barrios, where the goat is slaughtered and cooked into a caldereta, and is served as pulutan, or how shall I say, what is pulutan in English? Is something like bar food, okay? That's taken with the local alcohol called lambanog, which is a coconut liquor. So that's how the caldereta started, and then eventually it morphed to using other ingredients like beef. You can even have chicken for that matter. And because of all these developments in the culinary scene, I wouldn't be surprised if I found this particular method of cooking a caldereta with fish or even vegetables for that matter. And heaven forbid it becomes an ice cream flavor, which, by the way, the adobo has become a chocolate dessert flavor too. So I just want to let the students watching us today to awaken your senses to the possibilities of what these two recipes can do for you. But before you even take off to roll up your sleeves, shall they say, and start cooking like master chefs, it is important for you to know the very basics and the classic recipe, so that when you take off from these recipes, you still have that underlying caldereta and adobo flavor that you can still identify and taste. Okay? It's very hard to create something new if you don't know how it all started. So, if anything, children, students, friends, if before you even decide to take off and become your own personal master chef, start with the very basics. Okay? So I think we can now add the tomato sauce. Can you see it on the screen? Now, some people add tomato paste. That can be done, and the tomato paste can really be added before the beef is added, because then you want to saute it with the aromatics and then the tomato paste. But in this case, you might have to add more broth to the caldereta mix. Okay? So, you want to simmer this down so that the sauce thickens a little bit more. But just imagine the flavor from the broth, the spices from the chorizos, the sofrito of the garlic, onion, and tomatoes. Plus, what else did we add here? Oh, that ham bone. That's definitely going to change the complexion and texture of the caldereta that we have here. And so, just one more minute, and we're going to add all the other ingredients that will complete our dish. Now, there are versions to the caldereta, which I will talk about later on, with the ingredients that are added to it. So some people say, but I add liver sauce, I add grated cheese to the cut. Of course, you can do that. And these are the recipes that are the variations on the theme. But I just want to be as basic as possible. And I want you to compare your procedures and your recipes with what we're doing here right now. And if you can improve on this, I'd be very happy to do that. I'm not competing with you. This is not a master chef competition. This is something that we're just teaching you the most basic of procedures in making a caldereta. And this is a recipe that I grew up with. We're very lucky that, we're a big family of 10. And so we were an eating family. And both my parents are from Dipa, Batangas. And we all grew up very luckily eating Batangas food. And we still have that taste, memory, and recollection of all the food from Batangas that we grew up with. And one of them, or rather two of them, would be the adobo and the caldereta. So, okay, this looks like I'm on the right track. Hindi ako mapapahiya sa mga Batangueño. We want to add ingredients that cook a little longer than all the rest. So we've got some potatoes that we want to add, because that takes longer to cook. We've got some carrots. And so we're going to wait for that to cook a little longer until the carrots and the potatoes are for tender. Okay? So you can already imagine this plate of rice, nice fluffy white rice steamed, and all this wonderful sauce that's going to go into your rice, and the meat and the potatoes, which, by the way, for the benefit of our foreign audience, the Filipinos do not really consider potatoes as starch. We like to put it in our dishes, in the menudos, in the afritadas, in this case, in the caldereta, because we don't consider it as a replacement for any starch like rice, which we grew up eating. But of course, with present day trends, people have been substituting rice with a whole lot of other carbohydrates. So you can have this dish with a pasta. You can even have it with, a risotto. Some other grains like barley, for example, if you were going to make a sauteed barley, or maybe even a paella for that matter, you can really serve this dish together with all those other carbohydrates. Bread, for example, a nice crusty piece of baguette. If you toasted it and you would dunk it in the sauce with a glass of red wine or white wine, mag-lockdown na tayo buong taon. Okay? So, looks like we're coming together. Is it something that's very clear on the screen? Let's add our bell peppers for color, because then let's just presume that potatoes and the carrots have cooked long enough. Now you want to add your other vegetables that don't take as long to cook. And in this case, they would be the bell peppers. Now, heat. What about heat? If you want your caldereta to be a little more spicy, then you can always add these little devils into your caldereta, and that should give you enough heat. But then again, that's optional on your part. And but in this case here, let's do that. No, I'm just going to pinch this and add it on. And they have what you call bird's eye chilies. These are not the bird's eye chilies. These are just, I think these are what? Just regular chilies, which they pass off as bird's eye chilies. Nasiling labuyo. They're really much smaller, but they're really more potent than this one. But let's do that. Because then again, like I said, if this is a drinking dish, this is bar food, we want that thing in there. Okay? So you can see that the sauce is starting to thicken up. And the potatoes are definitely adding, to the thickening of the sauce. So look how tender the caldereta is. And we are not even doing this for 2 hours, if you notice. Okay, so what can I add? What more can I add here? Of course, I want to season. In the end, I actually like the heat of pepper. There's a different heat altogether from cracked peppercorns. Of course, we've got salt. Easy on the salt, because then you have to remember that the chorizos are salty enough. The ham bone is a little salty as well. And so that contributes already to the seasoning. Now, let's talk about other ingredients that they add to this caldereta. Some people want to add a little soy sauce to the dish. Just, I don't know. I suppose they're just so accustomed to using soy sauce in a lot of dishes. But maybe perhaps the soy sauce also adds to the saltiness of the dish, and also maybe adds a little color to the caldereta. Some people want to add liver spread. Okay, so we've got this popular brand you all grew up with, and some of them add that in the end to thicken it further, thicken the sauce further. That's something you can do. I'm sure some of you who cook caldereta use this particular liver spread. And for the benefit of the millennials and those who want to flex their muscles, hey, get even more fancy. There's what you call foie gras that you can even add, or maybe even top your caldereta with. And some other people want to add grated cheese. But then again, there's too much going on there already that baka we all get confused about where's the meat. All I taste is all the other ingredients, no? So in this case here, beef is our main ingredient. You can choose to use chicken. You can use lamb, mutton, goat, and I think that you would still come up with a good caldereta as long as you follow the real procedure that we talked about here today, which is really what? 3-4 steps, which is so easy. But again, I must stress, the quality of ingredients and the choice of ingredients that you use are very important. So if your main ingredient is beef, go to your butcher and ask them, what's a good stewing cut? And they should be able to help you out with that. And like I mentioned earlier, the prime cuts are not for caldereta. They're for steaks, they're for grilling, they're for barbecues. Okay? So I think our caldereta is pretty much okay. And what did I forget to add? What else do we have here? Ah, okay. That's some olives. Okay. And I think this is pretty much done. And later on, I can even show you variations on presentation of the caldereta. So I'm going to turn this off now because we're done with our caldereta. Let me taste just to make sure that what I'm talking about is real. Okay. Oh my goodness. My mother will love me. It tastes just like her caldereta. And let me see, just to prove to you, if the beef is tender and we didn't take 2 hours to stew it down or even an hour to do that, because we did that much earlier behind the camera. But let me try. I hope I don't burn. It's hot. But it's tender, as you can see. I could still masticate and chew and swallow. Better drink some water here. Cheers. Okay. So we're done with our caldereta. I'll show you the actual finished product. Let's see, are the potatoes tender enough? Yeah, and the carrots. Okay, so let me remove this ingredient here. And we'll go to our adobo. Okay, let me put this aside here. And let's go to this one, bring this one over here again. I need my, okay. I guess so you can better view. All right. What did I say? What the marinade? Okay, now we're going to adobo, right? So we'll leave the caldereta on the side and we'll finish off with that again towards the end of the demo. So we mentioned that we had marinated our adobo earlier, about an hour ago. But my mentor, Mrs. Glenda Barreto, Via Pare, is the doyen of Filipino Cuisine. I'd like to say hello if she's watching us. Also, Tita Sylvia Reynoso, a big name in the culinary industry in the Philippines, says she's going to be watching. So I hope you don't give me difficult questions later on. I might not be able to answer. But just the same, Tita Glenda was even saying that you could even marinate your adobo even overnight. So I can imagine the flavors might even be better there, no? So we've got this one simmering. And because in this case, we have chicken and pork together, and which, by the way, some recipes include beef, some include chicken livers even. What else? Some people that make adobo, you can even make a vegetarian adobo if you're asking me. And seafood, what about seafood? I have a suspicion, and I'm not an anthropologist or a culinary history expert, but if you're familiar with the dish paksiw, which is a very popular Batangas dish also, which is seafood cooked in ginger and vinegar and garlic, and it's also a stewing process. But if you're asking me again for the benefit of the millennials and the chefs watching us, it could also be a poaching technique. But in the Philippines, we stew what we call a paksiw. And my suspicion is paksiw may have been the very first version of the adobo when the when the Spanish and the Mexicans, who traveled with them during the Italian trade, arrived in Manila, or rather in the Philippines, in the Visayas, they already saw the natives cooking something that they said, it's like our adobo los naturales. So really, the name adobo is something that perhaps the Spanish decided was something they had from Spain called an adobo, which looked similar to what the natives were cooking. And so in the process, the name adobo stuck, and we've been calling our dish the adobo ever since. And the basic ingredients for making a good adobo are definitely three main ingredients: garlic, vinegar, and a protein, a main ingredient. Now, everything else, soy sauce, bay leaves, even onions for that matter, coconut milk, ginger, they're all variations on the theme. What again I'm doing here is giving you the most basic of what these recipes are all about. And you can use your skills, your imagination, your own recipes to take off from the classic. That is my only request, especially for those who are wanting to show off, especially to people who have never tried adobo or caldereta. Please make sure it tastes like adobo and caldereta. I'll even excuse you if it didn't look like those two dishes. But the important flavors of the basic recipes are very important. So to the young and restless, as they say, stick to the basics, boy. And okay, so let's have a look here. I think the chicken is going to cook ahead of the pork. And so I'm going to have to set that aside. See? Because then again, chicken will definitely cook ahead of pork. In Batangas, there are other variations of the adobo. Some are called adobo sa dilaw, in which case the addition of turmeric or luyang dilaw is added, especially in the provinces, in the cities like Batangas City and Taal. That's a very popular adobo version. So what do I have here? I see there's more chicken. Yeah, here. Setting aside. By the way, if you're trying to be a little more healthy, you can really just opt to use chicken or just pork or a combination of beef and say chicken for that matter. Or you can even make a vegetarian adobo if you're asking me, and that's something that we can discuss a little bit more later. Now, I want to remove some of the liquid here and set that aside, because again, we Filipinos grew up loving the taste of tostado. You want to burn, especially the skin and fat from pork. And so I'm removing about 2/3 of the sauce here because we want to fry the pork. Do I have, okay. Then, you have to excuse me, I'm left-handed. And so this gives me a lot of trouble because then they don't invent enough utensils and equipment for left-handed people. So, you see, I left some liquid there, and because you've got those nice fat and skin from the pork, which by the way, it's probably hard to come by overseas because then they tend to sell you lean pork without the fat and the skin. But I think if you went to an Asian store, that you can actually request for that, because then, like it or not, and we're not talking about healthy dining today, fat is good. There's a lot of flavor. And the pork is really tender enough because we were simmering that, at the beginning of our demo. So what else? So while we're cooking this, I want to show you some variations ahead of time. What can we do with an adobo? All right, I have a few stuff here. I have an invention. It's called adobo pate or terrine. Okay, it's really the cooked adobo that I had. I went through the food processor, cooked it down with some cream, and chilled it so that it sets. And you can come up with adobo canapes like I have here. And this is a personal recipe that I have. So for the benefit of those of you who are already thinking, what can I do with an adobo? And maybe perhaps to pick your interest a little bit more, because then you might have been hesitant to watch this demo today, because then you say, why am I gonna spend the whole evening watching adobo and caldereta cooking when I already know how to do that? I'd rather be watching what, I don't know, basketball or football on television. But hopefully that we are able to inspire you to promote our cuisine, particularly Batangas cuisine, but in general, Filipino cuisine, to our visitors, from other countries, or to other children, the Filipinos who live overseas, who have migrated and have, perhaps not introduced their children to Filipino cooking. You are our hope overseas to help and promote the beauty of our country. Batangas, as you saw earlier, had so much to offer in terms of sites, in terms of industry, in terms of food, in diving, and it's what, an hour and a half away from Manila. Definitely. So much. So here, you can see, all right, the chefs, all those tiny brown bits that settle at the bottom of the pan is where they say the concentration of flavors are. And so if you add back the sauce, whoa, that's hot. Don't worry. You add back the sauce so that we can, what they call, deglaze the pan. In French cooking and Italian cooking, sometimes they say you deglaze with wine. In our case here, imagine all that tostado flavor going back to the sauce. Okay. I'll pour more sauce in there. Some people like dry adobo. I like it saucy, spoon over, nice fluffy rice, or something to dip bread, the pandesal in the morning with. By the way, adobo can be an all-day dish that you can have for breakfast. The longer it keeps, the better it gets. You can have it for lunch. You can have it for dinner. You can turn it into a salad. You can turn it into what I have here now. Some of the sauce you can use to make a salad dressing with. You can make a rub out of the peppercorn, the garlic, the vinegar. You mash them all together. Add a little soy sauce just for color, and you can rub your meats. Stewing is a very popular procedure for making adobo, but you can also braise the adobo if you wish. And like I said, there are many other cooking techniques that you can apply for as long as you stick to the very important ingredients that make an adobo. Okay, so it looks like we're coming together. I'll add back the chicken. Okay, I would like to keep talking, but then again, I might just make a fool of myself and burn myself. So it's starting to look like an adobo to you on screen. Now I kept some of the juice here on the side, which can be reduced down to a thicker sauce, which you can use for many other applications. So in this case here, I think we're about ready to add the Batangas additional ingredient that makes it a Batangueño adobo, particularly where I'm from in Ipa. Batangas City makes adobo sa dilaw, making use of turmeric. I have an ingredient here. Here, Buyang Dilaw, okay, which is also very healthy. This would replace the soy sauce in that case. And then some people even add coconut milk in the process. So you can also make adobo sa dilaw na may gata. Or you can also make adobo sa puti, which means to say, you simply cook the adobo with vinegar, garlic, and the meat. And that obviously is the most basic of all adobos. Especially when the Chinese came in, when they started to trade with us, I suppose that's where the soy sauce element came into play. So we have some achuete or anato, achiote in Mexican. I would imagine that this came along in the pockets of the Mexicans who came to and landed here in the Philippines, and they say, hey, you want to trade some of these for use in coloring or your food or in cooking? This is very popularly used in the adobo in Ipa. It adds color, they say, just color, but no, really, there is a nice flavor to it. You steep the seeds in warm water for about, 5 minutes at the most. You discard the seeds, and what you will use is the liquid. Some people make annatto oil. Don't do that, because oil and water will not mix, and you'll end up with an oily adobo. I suggest that you only use annatto water. And so in this case here, I think we're almost done. I hope I'm not taking up more time than I was asked to take, but let me add the annatto water here. And we will need only about another 1 or 2 minutes just to cook it down, to add color to the dish. And we are done. So what else do I have here? Let me move this over to the front. And I told you there are other applications for adobo. We like to eat our adobo with a lot of pickles. And so, especially now in the summer months here in Manila, in the Philippines, we have a whole lot of vegetables growing. In fact, there's so much of it that they're almost giving it away. And so, the community pantries that we've set up all around the countries to help alleviate, the poverty situation because of the lockdowns. I think people are actually eating healthier now because then there's just so much fruit and vegetables going around. Okay, so let me turn this thing off because I think we're pretty much set. And thank you, God. I think I got pretty much everything done. But here are variations to the adobo. You want crispy, you can flake. Okay, I've got some pickled mangoes. It's in season. You've got pickled cucumbers. You have achara, the papaya achara. What is this? Paho, those dwarf mangoes, which are almost indigenous to Batangas, is in season. And so to all the Batangueños who are familiar with paho, I want to entice you with the fact that I got paho. I hope you have them in your pickled bottles, but this is what it looks like when it's all sliced up. Here you go. Can you see? That's the paho. And you like to eat that on the side with adobo, rice, and perhaps a nice sinigang or bulalo, which is a very Batangueño dish. And we've got a fiesta. It has this very pungent, very aromatic flavor that really goes well, with other dishes like fried fish or grilled fish, or the sinaing na tulingan, which is a very popular dish in Batangas as well. But I've got some fiddlehead ferns here, just to show you. They're called pako. They're also in season, no? It's right here. And I made a dressing of that reduction of adobo right here, which I mixed with some olive oil. And now I have what we call an adobo salad dressing. Now, what else do I want to do here? You can compose your salad. You can sprinkle some of that crispy adobo. If you have some toasted garlic, that would also be nice. And then you can also drizzle some of this into your salad. And I really wish you were here. I can make you sample the dish, but try and imagine if you had, a combination of salad greens with tomatoes and some pickles, and then a very different dressing, perhaps that you want to serve to your guests or coming over to your house. But okay. You hear the crunch? It's good. And just to show you, our adobo is also pretty much done. And like I said, if you have your own adobo recipes, I'm very happy that you do. But if you don't and are learning about this for the very first time, I hope I've been able to give you some tips and helpful hints on how to achieve the proper way of cooking a caldereta and adobo. Of course, particularly with the adobo, it is important that you use as close as possible Philippine ingredients, especially vinegar. Vinegar, you can probably decide to use balsamic vinegar if you're in Italy or you want to create a new dish, but then that can be done, and it's really up to you to adjust the ratios of your vinegar to your soy sauce and to all the other ingredients that I said are important in making an adobo. A white wine vinegar, a red wine vinegar, it can be used as well. But like I said, if you go to the Asian stores and buy Philippines, it would be even better, because then you'll get as close as possible to what an authentic adobo is if you use authentic Philippine ingredients. So, did I basically cover everything? And okay, going now back to our caldereta, for purposes of variations, like I said. You can make something like a ragu, actually, of the caldereta. if you shredded it into smaller bits, instead of serving it with rice, you could have it with a pasta, okay? And serve it if you have a restaurant or a catering outfit, that you can offer a variation on the theme. And then, of course, you also have for the adobo sa gata that we have here, like I mentioned earlier, that instead of using, that you could actually add coconut cream or coconut milk to your adobo recipe here and come up with an adobo sa gata. All right? So again, you know what's become popular here in the Philippines is because of the lockdown, we're not allowed to go out to dine out as much. But something beautiful happened with all this online catering and online ordering, that some ingenious individual created a product called a hot box, okay? Where if you've got a special occasion, you know, the Grab delivery guy brings it to all his friends to celebrate his birthday. He's got his name on it. Happy birthday. Because we can't get together, I'm sending you food. It's my treat to you. It's got, for example, in this case here, and this is something I actually got, okay? You've got garlic fries, you've got your adobo, and you've got some vegetables. And if you look at this little string here, when you pull that, okay, there is a mechanism. It's really, I think, a lot of hot water and a heating element that starts to heat up underneath and starts to heat the food. And you can actually see it steaming and all. And that's your birthday treat. And you're all on Zoom partaking of the birthday treat of the person who sent it to you. So I don't know if you have that in your countries, but then again, think of the possibilities that you can do, even as we face, you know, this crisis that we're all going through right now. The adobo pate, like I said, is something that can be commercially available. You can take off from there. You can make a terrine, you can make a rillette, you can make a pate, like we did here, and serve it for cocktails or bar food. If you wish, if you had a catering outfit, or if people want to order from you, then you know, come up with all these creative variations on the theme. So on that note, I don't know if I've covered pretty much everything, but I'm going to clear this up and show you more or less a more finished product of the dishes that we have. And I think I will be ready, though afraid, to answer questions if I can. So on that note, maraming salamat po, and I'm very happy to have been invited here today. And as they say in Batangas, ay halina ho't kakain na tayo. Thank you very much, and mabuhay po kayong lahat.
Thank you so much, Chef Mirna Seismundo. I saw some very good comments, excellent comments from your presentation. In fact, there is a unison in comment that you made us very hungry tonight. But anyway, marami pong salamat, Chef. Initially po, there are two questions po, Chef. One is from Miss Katrina Lincauco. She's asking, what is a best cut of pork to use for adobo? For caldereta also daw po.
Yes. For adobo, I like to use the shoulder or kasim. A little fat is always better to have in your adobo. It might be difficult because most of the meat available overseas are lean. But if you can manage to find pork with skin or a little fat, or maybe the belly portion of the pork might also be a good cut to use for your adobo. For how do you call this? For caldereta, like I said, the lesser cuts, the stewing beef cuts, are ideal for using for the caldereta, because you want to stew it down enough for it to become tender. So chuck, top round, what else? Brisket. And if you want to get fancy and even shorten the cooking process, short ribs, beef short ribs, lamb, for example. Lamb shanks, lamb shoulder is good for making caldereta as well. Chicken, if you're not going to be, if you don't, if you don't like to eat meat like pork or beef, chicken is something that you can also use to make a caldereta. What did I say? Mutton can be used. If you simply wanted to do a vegetarian caldereta, then just do away with the meats and go with the basic sofrito, tomato sauce, maybe a vegetable broth instead, and the vegetables that you want to throw into the caldereta. But like I said, what is important is that you have that tomato and stock, and I don't know, maybe a plant-based meat that you can use, which is very fashionable to use these days, is maybe something that you can also use to make an adobo or a caldereta. But in which case, the plant-based protein, as you would call it, you will probably need to turn into a patty and fry so that it doesn't disintegrate when you make your stew with the sauce. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much, Chef. I think that answered well the first question. Now the second question is, Chef, how about adobo pizza? The question came from one of our community leaders here in Toronto, Mr. Ben Corpus. Chef, the question is, how about adobo pizza?
Adobo what?
Adobo pizza po.
Adobo pizza.
Yes.
Yeah, why not? In New York, they're already making adobo tacos. So that can be done. But like I said, even as you have your pizza dough, make sure what you put on top tastes like adobo. Okay?
Thank you po, Chef. Now, third question is, actually, I saw her enjoying following and cooking along with you a while ago. Third question is from one of the members of Legislative Assembly of the Province of Manitoba, the Honorable Malaya Marcelino. Her question is, am I supposed to add salt to the adobo?
If you notice that I didn't do that because the soy sauce already provides the saltiness, but then again, depending on the level of saltiness that you want, you may really add salt in the end. If the question was coming from Manitoba, I must say that I have one very favorite grain from there, and it's called Manitoba wild rice. And I crave that every now and then, but it's a little difficult to find it here these days.
Thank you, Chef. She has a follow-up question, actually. What should be the consistency of the caldereta sauce be like?
Okay. You don't want a soupy sauce, because then that would be too watery, meaning to say that you have not completely reduced your broth and your stock enough. But you want it to be thick enough, like this. Okay, and the potatoes will add to the thickening of the sauce. So you want to be able to like a pasta sauce, like a spaghetti sauce, that thick would be very nice. But you don't want it too watery.
Chef, I think she's so enamored with your cooking. As he said, and I quote, I promise to send you the wild rice, Chef Myrna,
Ah,
from
oh, thank
MLA
you
Marcelino.
very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Chef. And another question from our honorary consul, from Philippine Honorary Consul in Halifax, the Honorable Connie Lacson. Her question is, what is the brand of liver spread that you use?
Am I allowed to give a brand name here? But the most popular that they use here in the Philippines is called Reno liver spread. But like I said, you can even go even fancier and buy, you know, from the delicatessens available around. If there's a chicken liver pate or a mousse that they're selling, that you can really use that as a substitute as well. And you know, in the restaurant that I used to run before, I noticed my chefs, you know, sometimes these chefs become very creative and innovative in their approach. They actually use a lechon sauce. You know, that liver sauce that they come in bottles that we use to make paksiw or eat with the, you know, with the roast suckling pig. They've actually used that instead of the liver spread to add to the caldereta. And of course, it adds a bit of spice and a little sweetness to the caldereta. So that's also possible to use. And well, you know, we've got this adobo pate over here. I can imagine that you can add this to your caldereta as well for thickening. Okay. So like I said, some of them use grated cheese, you know, to add to that's the adobo, to the caldereta. And that would add to the thickening of the sauce. So to that person who asked about the consistency of the sauce of the caldereta, if you opt to use, you know, add the liver pate or the lechon sauce, that it would definitely add to the thickening of the sauce. Okay.
Thank you, Chef. Actually, this is a comment from the wife of His Excellency, the Philippine Ambassador to Canada, Madam Nora San Buenaventura Robles, and I quote, I miss Paco so much, pairing it with adobo and steaming rice.
Yes, yes. Our comfort food is adobo. So it's really something that you can turn into many, many other dishes, and you can vary, you know, like somebody wanted to do a pizza, go ahead, make a pizza. You want to make a taco, you want to make that adobo taco, go ahead and do that. You can top it with some achara and pickles, you know, and some chopped greens or even lettuce for that matter. And say, well, you know, this is a more or less a Mexican version of our Filipino adobo, okay? And then you, like I said, you can make a salad dressing. If you want to make a barbecue, you know, if you want to, you have, you know, it's very popular to have outdoor barbecues in the summer, that you can actually make a rub of the adobo ingredients, and then you can grill. Or having lived abroad, like in New York, we didn't want the neighbors in the condo to smell all that vinegar from our cooking. So we actually braise the adobo in the oven, you know, to prevent, you know, the very pungent smell of the vinegar that many people are not accustomed to encountering. But, you know, that smell to us is perfume. But like I said, there are many ways. There's a stewing, a braising, a grilling, I don't know, hopefully maybe even a baking process in making an adobo. So again, to stress, you don't make an adobo without the basic ingredients. You can take off from those basic ingredients and, and fly. But other than that, it is important to start with a classic recipe and the basics of what a particular dish is all about. That is a universal law. So I don't think I've stressed that enough already. Okay, any more questions? Don't ask me questions I can't answer, huh?
Yes, actually, it's the last two questions, Chef, because we're going to send, as I said earlier, we're going to send to our resource speakers unanswered questions, and we will request you to reply to them. Last two questions po, Chef. In caldereta, goat meat is mango. I think this is sort of taste. What do you suggest to use to lessen the taste and smell?
Of goat? Boil it
Yes,
down.
Chef. In using it in caldereta, in preparing caldereta, goat
Okay.
meat po.
So if you boil the goat with some aromatics, I think you need to add what ingredients can remove the pungent taste of the lamb. Is probably to add aromatics to your broth, and then probably skim off the scum that would rise to the top. Okay, and I would think that would somehow reduce the pungency of the lamb or the goat. But lamb is lamb and goat is goat, so you're really going to have that characteristic flavor to it. But you can decrease by what I'm suggesting for you to do.
Thank you, Chef. Our last question is from Mr. Jerry Kainkoy. And his question goes like this. Hi, Chef Mirna. Have you seen a dry, blackened adobo version?
I'm sorry?
He's asking Mr. Kainkoy if you have seen a dry, blackened adobo version.
A dry adobo? Yes. Some people like to make a dry adobo, and so they simply reduce the liquid that's that's used in cooking. So after the marination, if you notice, some people don't even add water to their adobo. So I would imagine that the less liquid you add to that recipe will result in a drier adobo.
Thank you very much, Chef. You made us really awake until this time of night. Salamat po for your wonderful, excellent culinary presentation po. Before we close, the Philippine Consulate General would like to present each to the Toronto Catholic District School Board and the Dapirin Catholic District School Board the book titled Culinaria, a Guidebook to Filipino Cuisine, with Chef Mirna Mundo as one of the authors. So we're going to send this book, this culinary book, with you as one of the authors to these two biggest Catholic district school boards in Canada. The students are following up, and I understand they also did cook along with you. So the representatives are here, Chef.
Yes.
I understand from the Dapirin Peel Catholic District School Board, the Director of Education, Director Marian Masorato is also here. And the Vice Chair, a Filipina Canadian po, the Vice Chair of the Board, Ms. Luz de Rosario. And from the Catholic District School Board po, from Toronto, Trustee Gary Tanuan. So they will be sending the 2 books po.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I hope it will be useful for you.
It will be very useful to them po, especially in bringing in and introducing and continuing the link of our Filipino Canadians, young Filipino Canadians, to our Philippine culinary. So
Thank you.
we have come to the conclusion of our presentation tonight. In behalf of our co-organizers, the Philippine Embassy in Ottawa and the Philippine Consulates General in Vancouver and Calgary, we would like to extend to you all our sincere thanks for attending our common cultural project tonight. Before we close, may I wish to know any last comment or comments from the wife of the Honorable Secretary of Foreign Affairs, ma'am. Any last comment po? And thank you for your presence, ma'am. Ma'am, you're
Yes, I'm on mute. Sorry. I just want to congratulate all of you who are behind this project. It has shown the best of the Philippines and Batangas. And definitely, thanks to Chef Mirna, now Batangas tourism will shoot up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, Madam Maria Lourdes, Louis Barcelon Locsin. Thank you so much, ma'am. I miss serving you, ma'am, as head of protocol.
We miss you here also, Ron.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Also, ma'am, thank you. Any last comment from His Excellency, our Philippine Ambassador to Canada, the Honorable His Excellency Ambassador Rodolfo Robles.
My wife.
Oh, ma'am.
Louis.
Yes, ma'am. Nora.
Louis,
Yes.
hi. How are you? Hi, Nora. You're looking so well.
You too. You too.
Pwede ba, Ron, magko-comment na lang misis ko?
Yes,
Wala ko.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you for all this, Ron. Thank you, Mirna. And nice to see you, Louis. Good night.
Thank you.
Okay. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat, and to all of you, thank you very much, and have a wonderful night. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat din. Thank you.
Yay! Congratulations!
Rosemary.
Kanina, tapos mga bumabalik.
Baka nag-feedback.
Pinipilit yung i-unmute yung microphone. Sabi ko baka mamaya ayaw niya dahil